People keep drilling holes in walls around London for a very strange purpose. Michelle Birkenwald was drilling holes in walls before it became cool throughout the London area. Some may have found it to be a strange obsession, not understanding the monumental movement behind it. But now that word has spread about the mission behind the extensive drilling project, London residents are joining in, and all because doing so will protect a beloved British icon from danger. Michelle Birkenwald used to be a jeweler with an affinity for animals. He noticed that there was an absence in his garden of a particularly prickly friend of the British, the adorable hedgehog. Sadly, the reason was his own doing, as well as the entire British population. The hedgehog is a quintessentially British creature, said Anne Widdecombe, a former MP. She's not wrong. A 2013 poll crowned hedgehogs as Britain's national species, but while people were happily voting for their favorite woodland creatures, they were unknowingly contributing to their demise. In the modern age of technology, life has become easier for humans but harder for animals. It's not just about life-threatening pollution and the looming dangers of global warming. In our haste to make our own lives more convenient, we've accidentally made animals' lives that much harder and more dangerous. Since hedgehogs are nocturnal and move about overnight, they're usually cloaked by darkness. This normally works in their favor, but every once in a while they have to leave their homes in order to find food and to mate. That's when they run into problems, literally. Obviously, a hedgehog won't exactly look both ways before crossing a busy road. Too many times people have left for work in the morning just to be greeted by a hedgehog tragedy in the street. People usually witness this and move on, but not Michelle. "I'm just an average guy who decided to help one of our most adorable mammals," Michelle Birkenwald claimed. He may see himself as an average guy with a cool side project, but his organization, Barnes Hedgehogs, has been drastically changing the lives of hedgehogs for the better with one simple trick. Since the new millennium began, the hedgehog population has gone down by roughly 1/3 in urban areas alone. That's roughly 1 million. Michelle had no background in zoology, but he did have something that he thought could help the little creatures: a diamond-tipped drill. Nowadays, there's a huge movement of gardens across the country, with many still maintaining natural grassy backyards, the perfect habitat for the hedgehog. The problem is, to reach the backyard, hedgehogs have to go through some non-hedgehog-friendly areas beforehand. That's where Michelle and his drill comes in. Since these grassy areas were blocked by dangerous roadways, Michelle had to come up with a way for the hedgehogs to safely cross the street. The trouble was, he had to figure out a way to do so without impeding drivers. That's when he came up with an inventive idea. Michelle started by asking his neighbor if he could drill through their backyard gate. Drilling through the old Victorian brick was slow, difficult work, but he knew how important those CD-sized holes would be. He just hoped his other neighbors would be willing to drill holes as well. With their cooperation, Michelle was able to create something truly extraordinary, a series of man-made shortcuts for the hedgehogs. He went the extra mile by creating signs for the mini walkway and dubbing them hedgehog highways. The problem was, not everyone wanted to drill into their gate. People don't only have cosmetic worries when it comes to drilling holes in their fences and gates. Some people worry that their home pets will wriggle through the hole and run away. Others are concerned that animals who don't exactly have a hedgehog's heart-melting cuteness will use the tunnels as well. It's true that homeowners take a certain risk by allowing their yards to be a safe refuge for hedgehogs. By stocking their yards with piles of wood, leaves, and logs, a hedgehog's ideal habitat, there's a chance that they may not only attract hedgehogs, but unwanted vermin as well. There's also a worry that people will get so excited about helping hedgehogs that they'll end up domesticating them. According to Emily Wilson, a volunteer from Hedgehog Streets, it's important to remember that hedgehogs, as cute as they may be, are capable of taking care of themselves. Wilson also advises hedgehog enthusiasts against one common mistake: When creating a hedgehog safe haven in your yard, do so by making piles of leaves and logs and by allowing your hedges to get a little overgrown. You can even put out cat food if you don't mind attracting other critters as well. Just don't, experts warn, put out milk. Hedgehogs are lactose intolerant. Despite the minor pushback from some people, the response to the hedgehog highways has been positive. Emily Wilson says that campaigning for hedgehog tunnels really isn't a difficult sell. Everyone seems to love hedgehogs. It's a really, really easy ask. It's even more meaningful to Michel. In a recent interview, Michel pleaded with his local community to do their part. Hedgehogs need our help to survive, so please, let's do something about it, he implored. In addition to proceeding with caution while driving at night, he also asked neighbors to join in with one more part of the hedgehog saving movement. Through the group Hedgehog Street, the British Hedgehog Preservation Society (BHPS) teamed up with the People's Trust for Endangered Species (PTES) to make an interactive map marking hedgehog population and where these hedgehog holes can be found. Even with these efforts, the danger of extinction still looms over the wild animals. It was only back in July of 2020 that the BHPS released an article announcing the British hedgehog was growing even closer to extinction. Although this wasn't surprising news, we have been at the heart of the research that has charted the demise of the nation's favorite animal, they said. They also saw it as an opportunity. What people do on behalf of the hedgehog is amazing. The holes made in fences, the feeding, the hedgehog houses, the wildlife-friendly planting, the removal of hazards all make such a difference locally, the BHPS said. But even with these amazing efforts, the hedgehogs still might not survive, not without help from the largest organization in the country. BHPS CEO Faye Vass confesses that nothing much will change unless the British government steps in to enforce wildlife-friendly practices from farming to development to transport. Though our hedgehog friends' chances are improving with every little highway, we need more people like Michel, Emily, and Faye, and not just in Britain. Woodland creatures are facing extinction everywhere, not just in rural Britain. It took a hedgehog crisis to wake the British up to the plight of their favorite furry friends. But it was another crisis altogether that motivated one man in a totally different country to get creative. Rick Kalinowski never considered himself a kooky inventor until he found himself unemployed and stuck at home. Determined not to have idle hands and to make a few much-needed bucks, he headed into the garage with a $1 million idea inspired by a quick glance at the critters in his backyard. Just like many others struggling financially through the global coronavirus pandemic, 43-year-old Rick Kalinowski was going through it. Things just weren't going to be the same for the Pennsylvania-based plumber and HVAC contractor. Rick was laid off from work in March 2020 after Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf required all non-life-sustaining businesses close their doors due to the coronavirus pandemic. His stomach dropped, times were tough, and he soon had to figure out a way to support himself. My jobs were larger construction jobs, and Pennsylvania put a stop to them. I was pretty much sitting at home, not sure when I'd get my next service call or be able to go back to work, the Bryn Mawr resident stated. He couldn't twiddle his thumbs all day long, though. With his spare time, Rick watched the squirrels roaming about in his backyard. While staring at the scattered animals, the oddest idea for a backyard project hit him, one that he hoped would eventually fill in his bank account. In Rick's garage was a makeshift wood shop. I do work with wood quite often, he said, and after I was home for 2 weeks, I was running out of things to do. So thinking of the squirrels, he headed inside and went to work. He remembered seeing a photo of a hilariously tiny piece of furniture designed for squirrels a few years back, and he thought he'd recreate it from memory. The final product would be ridiculous and kitsch, but he had an interesting purpose in mind. It was a teeny-tiny wood picnic table. There were no plans, no drawings. I remembered what it looked like and I just built it. Then I screwed it onto the fence where I normally feed the squirrels, said Rick. He worried squirrels would just ignore the thing. So he was delighted to see the furry guys stop at the picnic table. Still, they just snatched the nuts Rick put out and went on their merry way. Once Rick set a cup of sunflower seeds on the mini table, however, the squirrels stayed to munch away. See, Rick loved the fidgety rodents so much that he'd often act as a squirrel paparazzo. He couldn't help but snap photos of the squirrels sitting at his miniature homemade picnic table feeder and post them on the All About Squirrels Facebook group. Still, there was a problem. After his social media post, he had a long discussion with his husband, Brett, about their rocky financial situation. "I had a little money in the bank, but my husband is a restaurant server and out of work as well. I was getting nervous about rent," stated Rick. The next day, the makeshift carpenter woke up to his squirrel Facebook post going viral. Thousands of people interacting with his sweet photo. But it wasn't just that they thought it was a cute build. These Facebook users wanted a squirrel picnic table of their own. "I was getting lots of friend requests and people sending me messages saying, 'I love your photo, would you build me one?'" Rick said. Soon enough, Rick had 60 orders to work on. Brett saw an opportunity, suggesting that the two of them start an Etsy shop devoted to the new squirrel picnic table business. In just 24 hours, their Etsy shop, which they named Squirrely Treasure Co., had 400 orders. Cha-ching. "It all happened overnight, and it was beyond our wildest dreams. I'm still in disbelief," Rick exclaimed. But there was no time to sit and celebrate. He had to get to work. At first, Rick sold the picnic tables for $25 a pop. Each one came with a feeder bowl and mounted equipment. Rick eventually added DIY kits to the Etsy store, which soon amounted to half the orders. The ideas kept stewing. "I pre-drill it, I give them the screws and parts with nice directions, and it's a family project that's perfect for people who are stuck at home right now," Rick explained. Plus, he sells his building plan, which comes with instructions and a design layout, for just $7. Rick even donated his building plans to organizations that offer woodshop classes. Meanwhile, the orders kept piling in so fast that he was forced to set up a waiting list. Rick was inundated with orders, and that only lit a more vibrant fire under him. And Rick wasn't too sure he'll be saying goodbye to Squirrely Treasure Co. once quarantine restrictions are lifted. "I have a solid plumbing business, but I'm seriously considering building this," he admitted. He's been basking in the joy his mini tables have brought people. Now that the tables are starting to arrive at people's homes, they're taking photos and putting them on their Facebooks, and that's exciting for me, Rick exclaimed. These photos of squirrels chewing away have traveled beyond Facebook. While Rick Kalinowski's homemade miniature picnic tables bring hilarity and squirrel fine dining to any backyard, others are spending their quarantines on their own incredible DIY build.